Welcome to MapleWoodian.com podcast. We have on the phone Mark Slade of Keller Williams. How you doing, Mark?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being with us, of course. We like to get updated on the real estate situation in Maplewood and nearby. Of course, Mark is our favorite real estate agent expert, man about town on the open houses and home sales and purchases. And always also one of our favorite sponsors, so I appreciate it. Of course, we're talking about a week after the election, which stunned a lot of people. A lot of fallout in Maplewood. People are nervous, upset. Well, let's talk about that, and then maybe get into some of the sort of traditional things we talk about in terms of the market. What's been kind of the fallout for our real estate market, if any, from the election?
Okay, well, the immediate fallout is that a lot of buyers that had pending transactions got incredibly nervous, and a couple tried to pull out of deals.
Really?
So, yeah, I think that, they were afraid that, the uncertainty of where our, political management was going to go, drew a great deal of ire. And, of course, real estate is usually one of your biggest, if not the biggest, investment you ever make.
Sure.
So if you're afraid that, in fact, you're buying after recently going through the 2005-06 through 2011-12, downturn in real estate and recovery, you're thinking that, well, am I really buying an investment right now? Because is the market going to continue to go up? And so that has definitely been weighing on a lot of buyers' minds, and it's definitely changed some of their temperament in terms of how they're dealing with home inspection issues. It's gotten incredibly tough the past couple of days. And then we have the more immediate and actual telling, which is that interest rates went up a quarter point in 2 days last week, and they've never in the history of managing and tracking interest rates had 2 consecutive days that totaled a quarter point of interest. So the fact that they went up that much is actually lending financial and statistical credibility to some concerns.
So we've already seen a little bit of an interest rate increase and just nervousness. You're saying a few people tried to pull out, but overall, are most people who maybe had deals pending before last, the election day, and now most are staying with them, or is everyone nervous a little?
Everyone's nervous, but here's how to break out the overall complexion of the marketplace. And then as you have people that have to move,
right,
and you have people that have to buy, okay, and then you have those people that may or may not need to move or are thinking about moving, and those are the people that's going to really affect. The people that still need to sell their homes because they're moving for jobs or downsizing, they want warmer weather, they're still going to proceed with what they need to do because they have a choice, but they emotionally don't have a choice. They've already committed to a certain path. And buyers that have outgrown their apartments in Brooklyn and Hoboken and Flushing, Queens, and New York City, they still need to find a place to live where they can spread out a little bit more and not have to worry about, double-decking and triple-decking strollers and, all the accoutrements of baby and toddler care. So we're still going to have those people in the marketplace, just like when interest rates were 18%. We still had people buying and selling homes. But the people that are on the fringes that added to the luster of the market, they may not be as inclined right now. They may want to sit back and wait a little bit to see what happens. And with interest rates rising, that's supposed to actually make them be more eager. So we're going to have to see, is the accelerator being depressed further, or is the brake being depressed more strongly? Which is going to win out? And so there is that uncertainty to figure out what's going to win out. Are people going to be holding back and being more cautious, or are they going to see that there's a chance that interest rates may start to rise? And let's face it, that will increase the cost of home ownership. It'll depress the price that they can afford to buy in a home. So maybe they will rush to the altar of home ownership. We'll have to see.
Now that would seem to be a national reaction.
Yes.
Whereas our area, and Maplewood specifically, has always, as you and I have talked, has always had a good seller's market, and values here have always been high and growing.
Yeah. We're buffered. Yeah, we're buffered by the commute to New York City. Because let's face it, if you were to take, a protractor or a compass and try to draw, within a 45-minute commute of the city where you could live with a budget, even though our prices have been continuing to rise, and we see a sea of orange and blue plates, meaning New York plates, the bottom line is that we are highly coveted because it's still one of the most affordable type of communities within a reasonable commute to New York City.
And that's still popular.
Well, that hasn't changed. If anything, it's making it increasingly popular. I mean, prices in Brooklyn are topping out at about $1,000 a square foot now. We're between $300 and $350 depending on the house and the town specific location, and that means you're getting 3 times as much square footage for your house.
And so, what is the seller's market? You and I talked last spring. Obviously, the election just hit, but in that time, what's been in general, are we more of a seller's market than we used to be, or a little less, or about the same? What's sort of the market looking like?
So the Maplewood market, most especially, first of all, Maplewood was ranked number 9 in a recent Star Ledger.
Yes, we wrote about that
article as one of the ninth hottest real estate
hottest. We're hot.
If I remember correctly, there are like 5,542 municipalities in the state.
Yeah, we're 9.
Number 9 is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
South Orange is actually ranked number 3, which is even more impressive.
But that helps our image too. I mean, we all gain from each other. And wasn't Millburn up there as well, or no?
Yep, Millburn is still up there because of schools. Montclair was up there. Princeton was in there in the mix, but Princeton's not a local area. We had 7 of the top 10 slots if you look at the generality of the area. Montclair and South Orange and Summit, all of that. So, but to the biggest point, I've been calling this, a hyper market. And so if you look at the year-to-date statistics through Halloween, January 1 through Halloween of 2016, the listing price has stayed almost the same. We're at $539 last year. We're at $540. The units, however, we've sold 303 homes compared to 273 homes last year, and that's closed transactions. And that's pretty impressive. That's an 11% increase. So we're seeing increased activity. And more found is where I come up with the term hypermarket, is that we have 67 homes currently under contract. Another 10 are in attorney review, and that leaves a net of 34 homes on the market.
We meaning your office or the whole town?
No. The entire. I never just look at my office. We may be the dominant player in town, but
absolutely,
to do a statistical analysis, it's got to include everything.
Right.
So this is everything that's on the Garden State MLS, which is our local multiple listing service. So we have only 34 homes on the market. When we have 5,500 homes in town, that's very startling. That we only have 34 homes on the market as of this morning. It's kind of scary. So as a net. So if you have, when I look at this and I say you have 77 homes either in attorney review or under contract, that's more than twice the net inventory. To me, that's what I call a hypermarket. And that's just beyond substantial. And, if you look at it even further, that's 77 homes provided they should pretty much all close between now and the end of the year or close enough to it. That represents another 25% of the actual inventory sold so far and closed, which means we could end up topping out at 400 units. This year would be one of the top in the last 10 years. That would break us back into a category we haven't seen in a long time, the number of homes sold. So that's incredibly impressive. Also, even more startling is the upper end of the market in Maplewood. This time last year we had closed $9 million plus homes. This year we've closed a dozen. So we're already up 25% more of those.
And when you say last year, you mean all of 2015?
Nope. I'm just measuring the same static.
Same distance, same time frame. Okay.
Same January 1 through Halloween.
So we're selling more $1 million homes.
We're selling more $1 million homes by 25% more, and we're selling more inventory by 11% more. And the average price paid per home has now increased in Maplewood to about hold on one second. I apologize. I have to get that. There we go. $554,000, which represents 102.8% of asking price.
Wow.
Last year at this time, we were at $550. So, I mean, we're up $4,000, which turns out it's about 0.7%. So the fact that our average price paid continues to rise is a good thing. And then days on market dropped slightly by 1.6%. So the average days on market it took to sell a home has dropped from 37.2 to 36.6. So all in all, go ahead.
So it's fewer days on the market. And how does that compare, statewide, nationwide? Or is it not fair to compare different places? You have to compare the same place over a period of time.
I prefer to stick with my statistics.
Yeah, I hear you.
We get national statistics all the time, and I'm pretty much, I broadcast those without thought, but to me, they're meaningless. I mean, It's great to know what the national economy is doing, but do we really care? We do personally, we may care if there's an area of the country that's being blighted with their economy, but our people are really myopic. They really want to know what Maplewood real estate is like, and they don't really care what Las Vegas, Nevada, unless they're planning to go where they're on vacation.
Right.
They're not thinking about where the market could be in Phoenix or in Cleveland, Ohio. They're really concerned with where our market is. So that's why being a local expert and having this kind of knowledge is critical. And it's also because our area of the country, because we're a suburb of New York City, is very different than most people. Because, as long as the New York City economy is healthy, we're going to be healthy.
And what would you say that now we're in the middle of a reevaluation and people are starting to get the information? Is that anything that's causing good or bad connections
statistically speaking,
or no?
Yes, statistically speaking, revals end up producing an increased number of listings.
Yeah.
So it's just what it is. It's like I learned this when I was an executive vice president in the fashion business, and we were moving our offices, and it was amazing to see the flight, so to speak, and turnover when you move. And it's statistically proven that even if you're moving a mile away, that the move itself precipitates a feeling of, it's time to finally do something that I've been thinking about or talking about. So a reval that's going to end up increasing somebody's taxes, especially if they're an empty nester, is usually going to be the tipping point for them to consider listing their home when they might have held. They're now going to say enough is enough. And every time I've been in town since '97, and every time we've had a reval, the number of listings do spike. And so we may see a little bit more balance in the market. If there are more listings and the same amount of supply, that means that prices could flatten out a little bit. That means that the leverage that the seller currently has over the buyer may diminish a bit. But it's also going to be dependent on what's on the market at that time. I mean, I've always tell people when I price their homes that that's good for today. And if your neighbor lists their house for less, we're in better shape. We're in worse shape, And if they list their house for more, then we're in worse shape, and we've got to respond to it. So, it's really about looking at the local economics. But, yes, the reval does normally and traditionally precipitate an increased number of listings. So that and the current hesitation and anxiety over the economy, one might expect, without predicting this, that there will be more listings and the real estate market may soften a little bit. So, but what is softening a little bit really going to be? We're still a hot market. So I really don't see it. I don't see it becoming a drop. I just see the growth may be slowing a little bit temporarily.
And what would you say to people who say, okay, the economy we don't know about, things are unsure, we're selling at a better rate, higher prices, for someone who's nervous about all these, who may say, well, I'd like to move somewhere else for a while, but I might want to stay here and maybe, retire in 10 years. What's sort of the thought for long-term residents who are nervous but really have no other reason to move other than being nervous about staying?
Well, if they have no other reason to move, then I would say they should stick it out.
Yeah.
You have to have a reason to move. I always think it's that, unless you're truly, if you have some underlying real thought as to why and motivation why you should consider doing a change in how you live and where you live, then you should act. But if you really don't have something, then and you're flirting with the idea of selling, then then I would potentially wait it out. I mean, and wait to see if there are any real significant trends that really either force your hand to move or force your hand into saying there's no reason to move. I love this community. I love being here. I love my friends here, and I don't really want to disenfranchise myself from that by forcing a move, because where am I going to go?
And your general thought about, and I think you and I have talked about this, what are the reasons people should move? Obviously, if you get a new job, or if you have to move for whatever reason, you want to downsize. You're an empty nester. You have 3 kids. They're gone. I don't need the big house. Or conversely, you have a lot of kids. You moved into your house with 1 or 2. Now you have 4 or 5. You want a bigger house. There are obvious reasons, but what's sort of the guide for if you're saying, well, what's a sort of a red flag to not move if you're sort of nervous and it might be worse if you're trying to save money, or what are sort of the reasons people shouldn't move?
Okay, well,
if it isn't obvious. Maybe I'm not asking that clearly, but
yeah, it's okay. So I'm going to answer it a little bit differently than you've asked.
Please, you'll probably be clearer.
So the people that are thinking they've outgrown their spaces, and they ask me, they're thinking of selling, and I come to them and say, listen, you have an attic in the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
You can legally convert. It has windows. It has heat. And by the time you end up paying a real estate commission to my agency and me, and the other side's agency and them,
right,
and you moving costs and attorney's fees and everything else, you'll have spent more money, okay, than you may have wanted to, or than you could have to just simply stay in your house and make a small renovation here or there to it. So what I usually tell people is, how important is this, and this need to move for more space? And there are times that you're already out. I mean, let's face it. As you know, where we live, Joe, I recently sold 2 homes on our block. And
to disclosure, we live in College Hill.
College Hill, right.
Yeah.
I sold 2 homes in College Hill on the same street.
Right.
Total $105,000 over asking.
Nice.
Both families outgrew their homes.
Right.
One outgrew a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, and now they're living in a 5-bedroom, 2.5-bath. And the other family, which is going to be closing next week, they lived in a 4-bedroom, 1.5-bath, and they're moving into a 6-bedroom, 3.5-bath. And since they have 4 girls, I think that I completely understand their need for more.
Right, that's a pretty clear reason, and you're also, sounds like you said, they're getting over asking price. So the finances, one would assume, they're moving for a specific reason.
They're moving because they have legitimate reason. Now, the downsizers, that's the bigger question. So you really have to determine how much money are you going to save.
Right.
Okay? And are you going to be happy with the move? Is this something you've been planning, needing to do, or it's just something you're thinking about? When you're just thinking about it, then you simply have to revert back to the economics and meet with your CPA, and do the evaluation to figure out if it really is going to make sense, okay? Some people might say, well, I want to downsize from a home to a townhome because I don't want to personally have to deal with the shoveling and the lawn and the leaves and all that kind of upkeep. But by the time you finish paying taxes on a townhome and the HOA association fees, are you really saving money, or is it just lifestyle? So that's why I always recommend it's not just an emotional decision. It's got to be a methodical, analytical decision reinforced by what your CPA says it's going to mean to you. So the people that are, if they don't really need to move, then they'll probably stay a little bit longer and wait it out, because there's a reason why they're still here. They like it here.
And is it thought that, okay, our home values are going up, they're good, but do we hit a bubble even in our area in the next 5-10 years where things will level off or start to go down, or?
Yeah. Now, people have been talking bubble now for the past year.
Yeah.
Are we in another bubble because prices went up as much as they did? And it's very possible that we could see a slowing. But when I'm going to revert back to what my experience has been as a realtor, and that is that unless we hear the New York City economy starting to have some major considerations, the banking industry laying off people, and all that kind of stuff, I would tend to think while the country may see a bit of a slowing, and we may see a slowing, it won't be as dramatic because it's really all about jobs.
Yeah.
If jobs and the area economy is strong, then so will the housing market be. When the area economy is horrible and blighted, like Detroit and Flint, Michigan, well, we see what happens to those areas. I mean, it's really terrible that you have great homes that fall into disrepair and people just can't afford to keep up with them.
And since we are Maplewood, which is still a very attractive community, still safe, still has the diversity people like, still has the kind of small-town feel, still has the great commute to New York. I mean, 30-minute train ride is common. One would think all of those assets still, I guess, rise us above even many towns in our area who don't have that direct link.
You're right. I mean, I have a 26-year-old son living in Manhattan, and he's paying $2,200 a month in rent for a studio apartment. And I'm thinking to myself, you're not that far away from buying a small home. Yeah. And then you'd have the tax benefits of it.
And the equity.
And then the equity gets in it, as opposed to paying somebody else money without any tax benefit and with no apparent ability to build any equity. So, you have to put things in perspective.
Okay. Excellent. Well, as always, thank you. Again, we've been talking to Mark Slade from Keller Williams. Also, you have many websites, goodhomesforgoodpeople.com, lovetolivinmaplewood.com. What's the best one for people to go to see your information and listings?
Good Homes for Good People. Yeah, the Good Homes for Good People is the best website. It gives them access to my blog. It gives them access to a lot of different things. It tells them a lot more about what I do and how I try to help people with their real estate needs. So that would be the primary site. If they have any other questions, they can contact me at sladehomes@gmail.com or call me at 917-797-5059 or text me, and I will do my best to answer them or point them in the right direction of what may make the most sense.
And, of course, we always list your open houses every Sunday, and those are always a great guide to what's available. And we also urge people, and I show up at some of these open houses, which is a good way to see what the market's doing and what the other homes are worth. And you never be surprised. You go to see a house, hey, I didn't realize this house is so nice. Maybe I want to give it a look, give it a bid.
We get that a lot.
But anyway, thanks again as always. Again, Mark Slade at Keller Williams. Check out his website. Check out our listings. And let's hope the rest of the post-election market is good news.
I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and my legs crossed and my eyes crossed.
Thanks much.
All right, thank you.